At his cabinet meeting today, the president again weighed in on sending troops into American cities.
I'm willing to go to Chicago, which is a big trouble, but we have a governor that refuses to admit he has problems, huge problems. Baltimore, Wes Moore was telling me I want to walk with the president. Well, I said, I want to walk with you too someday, but first you got to clean up your crime, because I'm not walking in Baltimore right now. Baltimore is a hellhole. And this guy, I don't even think he knows it. He's another candidate for president. Between him and Newsom, you've got some real beauties, I'll tell you. But if we didn't go into Los Angeles, you wouldn't have the Olympics, in my opinion. You wouldn't have the Olympics.
Also, for a third time in recent days, Mr. Trump talked about allegations he is acting like a dictator, today claiming that most people in America would be okay with that if crime is down.
So the line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime. So a lot of people say, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator. Most people say, if you call him a dictator, that if he stops crime, he can be whatever he wants.
Well, the president reiterated today he is not a dictator, but his cabinet sure did spend a lot of time and effort showering him with praise over and over again.
Mr. President, I invite you to see your big, beautiful face on a banner in front of the Department of Labor, because you are really the transformational president of the American worker. It is an honor to serve under your administration as the Labor Secretary, and we will kick off, and Republicans will own Labor Day again, not Democrats. We will own it because we are, and you are the president of the American worker. So thank you for everything that you've done.
Thank you very much.
Sir, as we've said very often, economic security is national security, and our country has never been so secure thanks to you. You have brought us back from the edge. You have the overwhelming mandate from the American people. Thank you for reclaiming Labor Day for the American people.
Thank you, sir. As we approach Labor Day weekend here, this is just such a great opportunity really to recognize your leadership as a true champion for working people.
Well, Mr. President, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to work for you. And you committed when you ran for president to make America safe again. And today, the average family and individual that lives in this country is safer than they've been in years because of what you've done.
Thank you for saving college football, by the way. We're all very grateful. The country just feels different. It just feels different. There's such a optimism and a love. There's a faith movement going through, especially with our younger Americans. I do believe we're in a revolution. 1776 was the first one. 1863 or so with Abraham Lincoln was the second. This is the third, with Donald Trump leading the way. And we are saving America.
Well, joining us now are CNN political commentators Van Jones and Alyssa Farah Griffin, two of the kindest and the bravest and the warmest, really most wonderful human beings that I personally have ever had the chance to know and serve. Alyssa, what do you make of the overall effort of the president's overall effort to consolidate and expand his power? I mean, how far do you think this goes? It's certainly no one in his cabinet is going to push back on any of these efforts.
Yeah, I mean, listen, his cabinet knows what they're expected to do when they show up to the cabinet meetings, and it is to lavish the president with praise, as we heard there in that clip. In the first term, you heard a little bit of it, but this is kind of a new level of just thanking him. I'm surprised.
It's so over the top.
It's unbelievable. They rattled quite a bit off. But listen, Donald Trump has always had an expansive view of the authority of the executive branch. I think in the first term, he adhered a lot more to a more conservative, constitutional conservative sort of idea that there were separations of powers. There were some checks in place. He had people around him who I think affirmed that. I think now he's going to push it to the limit. This was something that was laid out when he ran for president. Advisors around him support it, and we've seen it in many, many ways. But the caution I give Republicans and people who may love everything that Donald Trump is doing is once you let that toothpaste out of the tube, the left is going to be able to use that same expansion of power on policies you don't like when they take back the White House. Once you expand the executive, there's no shrinking that again. And that's what concerns me just as much as what he may be doing in office, but the precedent it sets down the road.
Yeah, I mean, Van, the consolidation of his power extends to most of his presidency. He's targeting political enemies. You know, you talk about weaponization. I mean, you know, John Bolton's house is raided. He's imposing his will over museums and the arts. He's installing loyalists. I mean, is there anything beyond his reach, do you think? Or his attempt to reach?
Well, not beyond his attempt. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. You know, a cabinet meeting is very important. Why? Americans have a bunch of problems. And when the cabinet meets, it's not supposed to be trying to make the president feel better. You're meeting to make Americans feel better. You've got a bunch of farmers right now because of these drought conditions. They don't know what they're going to do. There's nothing. We need a new farm bill. These people are not being talked about at all. You got a bunch of people, young people, voted for Donald Trump, picked up a ballot in November, picked up a diploma in the spring, and can't get a job this summer. A massive collapse in college graduates getting a job. They weren't talked about literally at all. You've got energy prices that are starting to creep up. Why? Because Trump has tried to knock out renewable energy, and all these data centers now are sucking up all the energy. Now grandma can't pay her energy bill. Not talked about at all. So when you have the business of the American people not being discussed, this is not left or right, this is happening across the country, so that everybody can sit around and tickle the bottom of his feet and make him feel happy, that is a catastrophe for ordinary people. You add to that this idea that he thinks that he's never sent an American troop against anybody but the American people. That's his view of what American military is for, is to go against the American people. None of this is working out very well, and it's easy to kind of get spun around, but at the end of the day, just talk to everyday people in your life and ask how things are going. They're not going well. The president spent 3 hours with people making him feel better, while most people are feeling a lot worse.
Oh, listen, I mean, obviously he's now focusing on crime and potentially sending the National Guard into other cities. That clearly, he believes, is a winning issue for him.
Yeah, Donald Trump's made the calculation that he performs better being tough on crime than Democrats do. And I think heading into the midterms, he wants to create this juxtaposition of he is the president and the Republican Party is the party of taking action, whereas these Democratic mayors and governors in these prominent liberal states, Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, Wes Moore, and Baltimore, Gavin Newsom, have just dragged their feet and not addressed the issue. Now, while the facts may not bear that out, we know the crime statistics are not necessarily in the president's favor. There is this sense that people feel that crime is bad in some of these places. So I think it will resonate with a lot of his supporters, and I think that there's a case that he's making that makes sense to the American public. But he's also motivated by action, simply. He wants to show that he is doing something. He sees this as sort of a juxtaposition to the prior administration, where a criticism was they're not doing enough. What is Joe Biden doing? He wants to show he's always doing something. What I'm curious to see is, do Democrats learn how to fight back beyond saying, actually, crime is not as bad as he's saying it is, and instead say, listen, crime is an issue, but is a federal takeover of American streets the answer? That's really, I think, where Democrats need to land on this.
I agree 100%.
Van, I want to place. Go ahead, Ben.
No, I agree 100%. Listen, you know, you talked about Baltimore, you talked about Chicago, there are other places like Philadelphia. There are too many funerals. There are too many kids who are more used to, frankly, going to funerals than going to graduations. There are too many teddy bears on sidewalks with balloons and flowers because somebody got killed again this weekend. That's true. But when you talk to the people at the grassroots level, what do they want? Those grandmas who are on the front line, those coaches on the front line, none of them are calling for troops. They're saying, actually, under Biden, you finally got some dollars down to the grassroots level for violence interrupters, people who are being paid to go into neighborhoods and talk to these kids. And it turned out, nothing stops a bullet like a job. And they were starting to bring it down, and they were finally seeing some hope. Guess what? The big, beautiful bill took all that away. So you actually have stopped the process of eliminating this youth violence. That's going to go in the wrong direction. And now you're sending in people whose job is not to talk to these young people, not to give them hope. Their only job of a soldier is to shoot somebody. So you're disrespecting local law enforcement that's been at the table with these grassroots groups, saying that you're no longer any good, and you're sending in people from other states with guns who have no training to help these young people. This is an unmitigated disaster for those of us who don't lie and pretend that crime isn't a problem. Crime is a problem, but the way you solve it is not by sending in troops from somebody else's state that they don't know a gang member from a basketball coach and expect things to work out well. This is a terrible idea, and he should get off of it.